everyone. Thanks for checking out the Commander's Brew here on YouTube. We're back with another new deck tech for this week. And if you like what you're seeing, it always helps to hit subscribe if you're not subscribing already. And if you are and you want to get involved a little more so, you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/commandersbrew. Of course, when you join that, you can get in on our Discord, and you can actually help us brew these decks there. Not to mention all the other perks that are available over on patreon.com/commandersbrew. And before we get into this week's deck tech, I just wanted to point out that you can nominate us currently for an MTG Content Creator Award. Just check out mtgcca.com. You can nominate the Commander's Brew or any other Magic content creator that you love and want them to be recognized for everything they do. So check it out, mtgcca.com. But without further ado, let's get into this week's deck tech. Okay, so we got a deck tech. We got a new deck this week. We're still hot on the heels here of Commander Legends. We're still talking partners. We're still talking new legendary creatures here. And we did a thing the other day on my my stream, which I do from most weekdays, kind of in the afternoon when Harry's sleeping, every other day or something like that. It's kind of an irregular schedule, but it's usually in the afternoons. Anyways, I did a thing where I cracked 2 packs of Commander Legends, and we got the inkling, the idea of a real EDH deck from just looking at these packs and looking at some of the cards. So what happened was we cracked a Livio. And basically, just from looking at that Livio, and there were a few of the other cards that were in there, but mostly it was the Livio that really got us thinking. So then I took that over to the Commander's Brew Patreon. I took that over to our Discord, and then we got rolling on this brew, on this idea of Livio. What are we going to do with Livio? What are we going to partner with Livio? Well, we started talking about blinking. We started talking about the exiling effects that Livio does, and we started talking about Unearth and how Unearth works with Livio. And then wanting to bring black into that, and then, okay, well, also red. So then we talked about Vial Smasher, even though it's an expensive card. And that's where we landed, and that's where we are, and that's where we brewed up a deck. So,
wait, does Unearth work with Livio?
Yes, it does. We had a big, long conversation about this, but yes, it does. I will get to that. I will tell you all about that. I promise you. So basically, what we landed on is a deck that I'm calling Mardu Sneak and Blink. And it's Livio and Vial Smasher. So I'll read you those commanders right now. Okay, so starting with our main guy, Livio, he is, okay, here, you want to read this one? Actually, I'll read the next one.
Sure. Livio is a 2-mana 2/2. Livio is a bear. 1 and a white for a 2/2 human knight legendary creature. And Livio comes with 2 abilities, plus obviously partner. They're 1 and a white. Choose another target creature. Its controller may exile it with an Aegis counter on it. It's optional, so you can't force your opponents to do it. But you want us to do it to yourself mostly. But it's a nice political option. I love that they gave it that choice. That
Agreed.
They made
Agreed.
that option.
Yeah.
2 and a white and tap. Return all exiled cards with Aegis counters on them to the battlefield under their owner's control. The game knows what cards have Aegis counters on it, and it doesn't matter which instance of Livio does this. You can put a bunch of Aegis counters with Livio into exile, and if that Livio dies, you can cast another Livio and have that one return all the Aegis counter creatures.
Another key thing about Livio, really and truly, that it does that, right? Because I was just thinking, I was like, oh, wait a sec. Does this work if Livio leaves? Right? It's like, no. Don't worry, you're cool. If Livio dies in between...
Do they have Aegis counters?
Yeah, that's all that matters. Yeah. So that's great news. And then we partnered Livio here up with Vial Smasher the Fierce. One that we're all pretty familiar with, 1 black-red for the 2/3 Goblin Berserker. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, Vial Smasher the Fierce deals damage equal to that spell's converted mana cost to an opponent chosen at random. So truly, Vial Smasher, even though it's like this really infamous commander and really powerful commander and really expensive commander, is really just there because we wanted black and red. Like, really, he's there for the colors. We have some slight synergy, as you'll see later, with Vial Smasher, but it's not really one of our main angles in the deck. Always nice to have them there, but yeah, absolutely, we're not leaning on Val Smasher in any real serious way. Um, so Mardu, Sneak, and Blink. We got to set the scene here, right? We got to set up the things that we want to be like on the battlefield. We want to set up what's happening before we can really start rolling. And well, it says it kind of right in the title, but Sean, this is a big card. First time I think making its first appearance on our show, maybe.
I don't know. I feel it might have made an appearance when it got cheap after
Maybe.
the Turtle Masters.
Right.
But it's Sneak Attack. 3 and a red for an enchantment. And that enchantment has an ability for 1 red. You may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. Sacrifice that creature at the beginning of the next end step. Sneak Attack is expensive because it's amazing.
Cheating.
You can just
straight up cheating.
For the 4 mana initial investment, and then you can pay a single red to get effectively unlimited mana value out of it. Yeah. You can do it a few times and dump your whole hand with as much red as you have in creatures. Like, so it's a pretty powerful card, and it's understandable why it gets expensive despite reprints.
Yeah, it's a very powerful card, obviously, and in true Commander's Brew fashion, we are not really using it to its fullest, potential here. We're not partnering this with, like, I don't know, who's the I don't know, any of the ones that like untap your mana and bounce them back, and what's his name? I want to call him Panthe. There's some flying blue creature that costs like 9 or 7 or something. Anyways, he bounces and untaps lands. Anyways, don't worry about it. We're not using that guy. We're not using any of the. We're not using any of that kind of stuff. We're just getting we're just going to be getting value off of our high mana creatures by sneak attacking them in, and then, before we have to sacrifice them at the beginning of the end step, sometimes we're going to Livio them out of there. And then when we Livio them back in all at once, all of a sudden, we get them all to stay, right? So we're going to get their initial value by getting them in, and then we're going to get that value back again later.
I love it.
It's kind of working along the same lines with Sneak Attack, but it would have to be later in the game. I just wanted to mention it here because it doesn't really fit anywhere else. Is Mirror March, and cards kind of the same ilk. The 5 and a red enchantment that's whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, flip a coin until you lose a flip. For each flip you won, create a token that's a copy of that creature. Those tokens gain haste. Exile them at the beginning of the end step. So it's like you have to pay for the creature, obviously, because we don't have to pay for it because it's not a cast trigger. It's actually an enter the battlefield trigger. So it's kind of amplifies Sneak Attack. It amplifies these effects, and again, there's other ones like it. So it's kind of in the same vein as a Sneak Attack because you're going to be able to get like extra instances of those creatures. Although Livioing those out are going to be tokens and it won't do much. But anyways, just kind of in the same kind of family there. I wanted to mention that because it can be a lot of fun when we Mirror March some big, huge creatures down.
Yeah.
So that's setting us up. Obviously, Sneak Attack is one of the key cards in the deck. We want to be able to get that guy out. But also, we just want to be able to go through our deck and find that card, find other cards. You can still play this deck really well without Sneak Attack because we want to be filling up our graveyard a little bit, and Reanimator effects do the same type of thing. So Fill Possibilities and its ilk are kind of in this deck here. So we have a 1 red instant that says, as an additional cost to cast a spell, you discard a card, and then you draw 2 cards. So we can pitch one of our big creatures, and we can draw 2 cards, and hopefully get into something like these two, Sean.
Sure.
Actually, I think I only have the first one in the tab, so you can just read the first one. They're the same card, basically.
Goryo's Vengeance. Blessed reprint to make this a little bit cheaper. This is 1 and a black for an instant. It's arcane for those that care.
Yeah.
Return target legendary creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step. And you can splice it into arcane for 2 and a black. Do you have any other arcanes in here?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so that doesn't matter. But the reason this card is super cool is because there are very few Reanimator effects at instant speed. And this is the only way, I'm not sure if you take advantage of this. This is the only way to take advantage of those creatures that want to shuffle them back in. Yeah. That Wizards has designed, but like, well, this card is too powerful to reanimate. So if it ever ends up in the graveyard, we'll make you shuffle it back into your library. Well, that's a triggered effect, and Goryo's Vengeance can beat that by pulling them out before that shuffle happens.
That's right.
So that's why that card's very lucrative.
We definitely don't take advantage of that, but we could if you change the creatures.
Sneak attack and Goryo's Vengeance, like they're kind of like it's the same thing,
Yeah.
right? Like with the sneak attack, you're probably going to use the big Eldrazi.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? When they get to the graveyard, they want to shuffle themselves back in along with the rest of your graveyard, but Goryo's Vengeance says, no, please.
Yeah, Goro's Vengeance gives us another shot at them, right? Just a 2 mana for a Reanimator effect that can end up being permanent because of Livio's ability, right? So that's why we're way more into this kind of temporary Reanimate effect, right? Okay, so that's what we want to do. We want to set the scene up by getting our graveyard, maybe a couple things in our graveyard, and if we can get Sneak Attack out, that's perfect, right? That's right where we want to be. But there are the vegetables we got to eat in the deck. We all know this. We all got to have things. We got to like oil the gears, so to speak. And that's card draw. Arguel's Bloodfast is a really great one that we don't talk about enough, I feel like. It's just the 1 and a black legendary enchantment. You pay 1 and a black, pay 2 life, draw a card. It's like very similar to Erebos' ability, and that card is a lot more expensive and a lot more mana, and it's just great. And like I think I've maybe seen Arguel's Bloodfast flipped once in a game, and it's
tough to do.
Yeah, it's tough to do, and like you don't really want to do it, really, right? I even remember the person doing it. They were like, "Oh, they flipped it," and they were like, "Oh, I didn't really want to do that."
Ha ha ha.
So, but now they get this life gain thing. But anyways, don't worry about the back. It's the thing that lets you sack things and gain life and adds black mana. Big deal. Another cool effect for like kind of draw is this next one here.
Outpost Siege, 3 and a red for an enchantment, and when it enters the battlefield, you choose Khans or Dragons, but we're probably going to choose Khans every time. I think. Maybe not. But Khans is at the beginning of your upkeep. Exile the top card of your library, and until the end of the turn, you can play the card. This is when they started inventing Red's extra draw ability, the Impulse Draw. So you have an extra card to use that turn, but you have to use it that turn. But maybe there's a world where you want to use it as dragons, where whenever a creature you control leaves the battlefield, Outpost Siege deals 1 damage to any target. Livio, we know, wants things to leave. Things are sacrificing and being exiled, so it just says leaves. Doesn't matter how. So if we're very close to closing out a win, or if there's some super difficult creatures that we need to get off right now, maybe you cast it as dragons.
Absolutely. Later in the game, dragons even becomes just a better option. So that's why this one specifically, even though we're in black, which there's a lot of ways to draw cards in black, pay a little life and so on. But this Outpost Siege becomes really good because early in the game, you drop it for Khans, and then later getting it for dragons is just as good. So really, really good and strong card here. And then we have a weird one, Wild Celebrant. It's a common. It's a 5 mana 5/3. That when it enters, you can destroy target artifact. Well, this is one of the ones that we cracked in our packs of Commander Legends that led us kind of into this deck because it was an ETB ability, and it's a lot of mana that you don't want to pay. So like sneak attacking in a 5 mana 5/3, it attacks fairly well. We had some like weird stipulations when we were messing around on stream with like I have to use X many commons and X many uncommons, but I think Wild Celebrants is just an interesting inclusion because again, like this one actually works quite well with Vile Smasher. Right, you get a 5 mana creature and cast it, and you get to blow up an artifact and just smash someone for 5 in the face. Pretty good. So and plus you gotta have artifact removal. So there we go. That's what we're doing. That's what we're aiming to do. But now let's start taking a look at some of the neater moves.
Working on a
Neat.
move.
A lot of neat moves to report on here, and a lot of them are just kind of like the way that certain cards interact with our commander. There's a lot of like really excellent, because like I've kind of shown you the engine that we're trying to create, and then there's just ways to like really make it roll in this deck. So Sean, I'll let you take this first one because it's one that really pays off the Livio ability.
Yeah, my favorite card with a fiery green mohawk, that's Ilharg the Raised Boar. 3 red, legendary boar god, 6/6 with trample. Whenever Ilharg attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. It's very similar to Sneak Attack, except it doesn't give haste because it's already tapped and attacking. So you do it in your combat. But also, when Ilharg dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library, 3rd from the top. So I have a question. If Livio does that, you have the option of putting it in your library third from the top. Will it still have an Aegis counter on it?
That is a good question. I don't think counters can exist on cards in libraries. I think that's just like a general rule, right?
Ah, okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, because there is that black green. Is it Briar Skull?
Skullbriar, yeah, but it says specifically that they can, right?
Uh huh.
Because I think
Okay.
the general rule is that they cannot. Like,
Okay. Just curious.
yeah,
Not important. I mean, I don't know how. Because like, if it comes back, it's like, ooh, it's already got an Aegis counter. It's like, well, you got to exile it with an Aegis counter again. Although if it gets exiled in another, anyway, I don't know. I don't know.
yeah, that's a very interesting rules question. I would imagine it would lose it, but maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Anyways, Ilharg obviously there to plop some big things onto the battlefield for us, and that we can
He's
just
there to plot.
Livio away. He's going to plop big time. Now you may mention or may notice that I've been mentioning Livio a lot, and those Livio abilities, they do cost mana. We're not doing those willy nilly, but one way to help lessen that cost is Zerda, the Dawnwaker. 1 and the 2 Boros for the 3 mana legendary elemental fox 3/3. It has companion. We couldn't companion this guy for this deck, but I do love Zerda as a companion. Abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 generic less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana, and that costs to less than 1 mana. That's great news. And it has 1 and tap target creature can't block this turn, which who knows might be relevant. But Zerda takes Olivio's ability and makes it a single white to do the exiling, or a single white and tap to bring everything back, which is very good. Zerda might be one of the best creatures to have on board next to Livio, if not the best creature to have next to Livio. Zerda's great, does a lot of work here.
I noticed you've got Rakshasa Debaser in the deck. This looks like a great card to sneak attack somehow. Probably great with Livio too. 4 black for a cat demon 6/6. Whenever it attacks, put target creature card from defending player's graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. So you just get that creature for unlimited time. But it's also got Encore. So I have a feeling this is going to be similar to Unearth here. 6 black. So this is 8 mana to exile it from your graveyard. Oh, you got to exile from the graveyard, so maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay, so for each opponent, create a token copy that attacks that opponent if able. So it's like you get an illusion token. It's not an illusion, but that's how I imagine it's happening. Like an illusion for each opponent of Rakshasa Debaser appears. Each one goes after its selected opponent, and we get another creature, because we already had one when it was here the real time, from each of their graveyards. That's an enormous Reanimator effect.
Yeah, so I kind of ambushed you a little bit with this one, because there's no like real hard synergy reason why this card is in the deck. Again, it was one of the ones we cracked in the Commander Legends that I included. However, as you kind of picked up on, Encore is very similar to Unearth, right? So because we have some Unearth abilities in the deck, we do have a lot of ways to like fill our graveyard. And if we get Rakshasa Debaser in our graveyard, we can still cast it with the Encore ability, and that's kind of the better version of it anyways. It's a 6 mana card, but it's only 8, it's only 2 more to do the Encore. So like that's like 8 mana is a lot, obviously, but we're only talking 2 more to get like 2 more Rakshasa Debasers attacking, you know what I mean? So you get a really big effect with this. So not only is it just a good card to have, and it's good to be able to sneak attack just big mana creatures and things like that, obviously, but I think it does a little double duty with this. So good work on picking up on that one. Nadir is another good one. Man, we've been talking about this card on basically, I think ever since this has come out, ever since Commander Legends has come out, Nadir has been in a black deck that we can talk about. Agent of the Duskanel. 5 and a black for the 3/3. Whenever a token you control leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Nadir, Agent of the Duskanel. Similar, works well with Rakshasa Debaser there. But also, when Nadir leaves the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens equal to its power. Leaves the battlefield. Very important there, right? All we need to do is Livio this guy up, and we get 3/1/1s. If there are any counters on it, that can be really big, and then we can bring it back and keep doing it. So this is a great Great creature to be blinking in and out of the battlefield. Really good.
Wow. I noticed you've got this is going to be really fun. So we got Fiend Hunter, which is sort of the old templating for this effect. 1 white for a 1/3 human cleric. It's the kind of creature that when it enters, you put another creature under it exiled, and then when it leaves, that creature comes back to the battlefield. But this is the old templating that someone found a hack for, and it involves timing. So Fiend Hunter says, when it enters the battlefield, you may exile another target creature. That is its first triggered ability. That goes on the stack, and if you let it resolve, you put a creature under Fiend Hunter. It also has this triggered ability. When Fiend Hunter leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. Great. So when Fiend Hunter leaves, if it's got this triggered ability, it goes on the stack, and then it goes back in. But what we know about the stack is you can have Fiend Hunter enter, the first trigger goes on the stack, and it's like, well, I'm about to exile your Grave Titan under Fiend Hunter because that's the triggers on the stack. But before I'm going to let that resolve, I'm going to Livio this thing, and then it's going to leave the battlefield. So now on the stack first is like, okay, Fiend Hunter just left.
Yeah.
Put the creature back. But there is no creature. Fiend Hunter has not yet exiled the creature.
Yeah.
Then the remaining trigger, which is exile Grave Titan under Fiend Hunter,
Yeah.
technically doesn't say under. That's how I shortened it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
like
yeah.
just it's exiling Grave Titan, but then it's like, but there's no way to come back. There's no way to come back. That Grave Titan cannot come back. But you can Livio back your Fiend Hunter and do it all over again.
Yeah, with Livio specifically, Fiend Hunter just becomes like a essentially 5 mana exile something, right? Because like just from everything you just said, basically, so it's a lot. It's really good creature to have next to him, and also works well with Sundial of the Infinite, which is another card that's in here. The 2 mana artifact, pay 1, tap, end of turn, activate this ability only during your turn. Sorry, end the turn. We pay 1 and tap to end the turn. We can only do that during our turn. So this is just a generally useful artifact in this deck because we are doing the Livio thing where we're getting around that sneak attack sacrifice trigger or any of the other end step triggers that we have, which we have a lot of them. Stuff like from Mirror March and from other cards like that. So Sundial becomes very useful there. The reason I just paired it up here with Fiend Hunter is because it also does the same thing with Fiend Hunter. You can do the thing where Fiend Hunter leaves and it would bring something back, and you could just end the turn there instead. So
Yeah.
very useful card. Again, I feel like we've used Sundial a couple of times in the last couple of brews as well. Speaking of Unearth, here's where we get to the Unearth section.
Okay, yeah. So tell me how Unearth works with Livio, because Unearth
So I'll read it to you.
specifically says
Yeah.
if it would return for any reason,
Yes.
you exile it.
So here it is. Let's talk about Extractor Demon, okay?
Okay.
4 black for a 5/5 demon with flying. Whenever another creature leaves the battlefield, you may have target player put the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. Great. Get a little mill
already great
action
with this
going.
deck.
Right? Perfect. He's just a big 5/5 flying demon. Always nice to have. Unearth. 2 and a black. If you're not familiar with Unearth, it's this. Return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Exile it at the beginning of the next end step, or if it would leave the battlefield. And you can only do
So
that as a sorcery. So
It's designed to get around the trick where you can't put it back in your hand or anything.
right, you can't put it back in your hand. We can't blink it. We can't, I don't know, sacrifice it, put it back in the graveyard. That won't work. Basically, if it would go anywhere else, you just exile it. And so, yeah, I was like, oh, okay, so can we Livio away the Unearthed creatures and put Aegis counters on them? And then I was thinking, well, I don't think that would work because, I go to, let's say, so I've unearthed Extractor Demon, right? Now now it's my end of turn, so I'm going to sacrifice it or whatever's going to happen to it. So I go to Livio it, pop it into my exile with the Aegis counter on it. But this says if you're going to do anything with it, if you're going to move it anywhere, you have to exile it instead, right? That's how I thought it worked.
Exiling it.
But we are exiling it, and that does make a difference. And in fact, I went into Judge Chat, and this is, by the way, this is after a bunch of our patrons, a bunch of our Commanders Brew patrons were basically telling me that what I thought was wrong, and I believe them. I really, truly did, because they're very smart and very knowledgeable when it comes to rules and stuff like that.
Commander players know a lot of rules.
Absolutely. But I just wanted to get that official, is more about the explanation as to why, because the guys knew how it worked, but I was just like, why does it work like that? So then a judge was like, it's kind of written weirdly, but it doesn't say this outright, but basically what Unearth says is if it would leave the battlefield, you exile it instead. But if you're going to exile it, that doesn't like there's no replacement effect that happens.
You
if
can't exile it instead of exiling
exactly
it.
because that's exactly it. It's being exiled, so
it's
it matched
satisfying its own
exactly. It
conditions.
satisfies the conditions of Unearth, so they're happy. So Unearth sees it and goes, "Oh, you're exiling this? That's what I wanted to happen." The fact that Livio then also sneaks a little Aegis counter on there Unearth doesn't care about that. It doesn't see it as anything else. So
we've figured out a way around Unearth.
finally, we figured out a way around to Unearth. Now
that's huge.
It is, right? It's pretty good. Now, unfortunately, after doing all this research and stuff, there's like not that many great Unearthed creatures that are only in black and red, white. There's none in white. They're all in Grixis colors, right? So like you can, like we ages ago we did an Unearthed deck, I believe, or at least maybe we did two of them. We did Cedrus, right? Great and a lot of fun. And Unearth is a much better ability than we thought it would be. I remember after coming away from that episode being really happy with it. But there are some great stuff, and Extractor Demon is just one example of the ones that are good. There's some ones that make people discard their cards in their hand, and there's some zombie making tokens, things like that. So, but those cards get way better when we can get around this Unearthing, because it's only 3 mana to get Extractor Demon out of there. Plus, it's going to be, so we're paying like 1 and a white to keep him up, but then we can bring him back again, right? So it's really good. The Unearth thing ends up being really, really great in the deck, and I'm happy that finally there's a way around it.
Wow.
Yeah,
and with Zerta, right? Unearth is a single black,
yes,
and
that's right.
Livio's a single white to like get him back out of here in exile.
Really very strong.
Yeah.
So the next couple are just some big things that are just really good, and we can kind of speed through.
Oh sure,
a little
Ashen
bit,
Rider,
yeah.
a classic. 4 white, black, Archon, 5/5 with flying. It's already great, but whenever it enters or dies, exile target permanent. This card is a monster.
Yeah, and absolutely, we can let it die from many different effects we have. We can sacrifice it, but just the enter the battlefield is just so huge with this guy. To sneak attack this guy in is like single red, get a 5/5, attack with it, exile a permanent, exile a permanent. So pretty sweet. And then this sort of trio package of the Primordial, Sepulchral Primordial, being really good because we've got that mill stuff going on, and we can target our opponents to mill a little bit too. He's the 7 mana 5/4. He has Intimidate. He's the black one. Pulls things out of the grave, each of your opponent's graveyards. We got the Molten Primordial, which is the red one. Again, 7 mana. This time for a 6/4 with haste. When Molten enters, he threatens each of your opponents, so he grabs 1 creature from each. Really good with Livio as well. And Luminate, same thing, 7 mana. This time it's a 4/7 with Vigilance that Source of Plowshares each 1 creature from each of your opponents.
Oh yeah, and I don't know if we made the conscious link, but Livio can only, like the May, you can try to exile any creature, but its controller has the final say of whether that works or not. So after a Molten Primordial, you're like, well, I've got all your creatures, and since I control them, I'm going to Livio them, and they go. Well, when do they come back? If I've Livio them, so when you Livio them back, they get them back.
They do get them back, and I'm pretty sure Livio says they all come back when you do that second ability. Yeah. So you have to return all of them. So like you can use Livio as kind of a way to permanently sort of tuck something a little bit, permanently exile something, but then just be aware that when you go to get all your stuff back later, their thing that you took is going to come back as well. So we're doing a lot of leaving and entering the battlefield. So obviously, I mean, these next two are just really just auto includes in this deck.
TOTP. Terror of the Peaks, 3 red, 5/4 flying dragon. I always forget this exists. Spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life to cast. But the main thing is it's Warstorm Surge on wings. Anytime another creature enters under your control, Terror of the Peaks does damage equal to its power to any target. Warstorm Surge is the enchantment that has that ability, except it's a 5 and a red enchantment. Same thing. Whenever any creature enters under your control, damage equal to its power anywhere you want.
That's right. I mean, just, kind of goes without saying, but are just so powerful that we do have to mention that, yes, we did remember to put them in the deck. They're really great,
Yeah.
great cards. That's it. That's everything. We're doing a big blinking party, lots of sneaking around, lots of attacking, lots of fun stuff to do. Livio is a powerful commander, doing a little bit of just glancing around what we can move in and out of the battlefield with this guy. It's just the partner ability just makes a lot of things on the table that maybe weren't before. Anyways, we had to do like some different color combinations, but now that we have that partner ability, we can really have some fun with it. We had a lot of good Discord helpers in this one. Chief Fee, Lil Watt, Papa Dio, Bravester Robin, Werthers, Neo Maxis, Mattis Men, Gee Pizza. Anyone I missed, apologies, but this was looked like this was the core group. Lot of great stuff. Again, there's always some other weird deck that we could have built. Like, I think it was Chiefy that at some point was like, we could just make this Mardu Dragons, and it still does the same things as this deck. Like we could have this thing where it's all dragons entering the battlefield and us blinking dragons away, and then having same thing, having these awesome ETB abilities, but we could also have some tribal synergies there. So like that was a possibility for a bit, and yeah, there's like
partners
combos are so possible with this type of deck too, with sneak attack. Like you could go big time combo. Lot of opportunity here.
Well, the partners seem to do that. I mean, you'll have to listen next week to see what my deck is all about, but there's a similar thing going on where it's like, here are the partners, here's our plan, but there's like 6 other ways you could go with these partners. Like, these partners are the best thing that happened to Commander in a long time.
It's really, really quite good. Well, there you go. That's we've shouted out our patrons from the Discord. Now let's take a look at the budget report. So this one is a lot cheaper than I thought it was going to be. I'll just say that. Even though we've included some fairly pricey cards, I think the general makeup of the deck is low enough that we didn't get there. So when I first plugged this in, we had around $100. And I think I added some cards, so I bet you it's closer to like 110 or so, 100 and maybe 20, but I doubt it. Anyways, so in that low hundreds, 115, maybe somewhere like that. I got a kind of market price of like between 60 and 75, depending on what versions of cards we were looking at. Obviously, that's always an issue. But it's not a crazy expensive card, despite these cards being in it. Check it out. We have Vial Smasher, which is a $20 card. $15 from Commander Legends. That's the etched foil. So at least so that wasn't taking that one into effect. So that's good. So that's a little bit cheaper than it looked to me. Those etched foils are dropping in price, which is really good. Really, really nice for all Commander players, because they look good as well as just being cheap. Next, this one, you already read this one.
Yeah, Terror of the Peaks. It's in standard right now. It's a mythic. It's $14, $14.15, depending where you're getting it.
Yeah, and another one we've already mentioned a lot is Sneak Attack. We knew this one was going to be a little pricey. It's at, what is it right now? What is it down there? I can't see it.
You can get one for like 16, maybe.
Okay.
Like between 16, 13. I don't know.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah. Well, I saw it like around 15. So, but sometimes the image search here gives us a little bit of a different price. But yeah, so in and around that family. So despite those three, I mean, I wouldn't cut Sneak Attack from this. And it's tough to cut Vial Smasher because they give you the option. But we don't usually take the commanders so heavily into the price of the deck anyways. I kind of obviously, if you don't own one, you have to go out and get one. But a lot of people, I feel like, if you bought that pre-con, bam, there you go, you already have a Vial Smasher. And even if you have another Vial Smasher deck, it's so easy to just slide the commander from another deck over, right, and just use it for this other brew that you've got going on. So it's you don't really have to spend that much on Vial Smasher if you own one. Obviously, you don't spend anything if you already own one. And finally, the one that like was I think more surprising to me was Erratic Portal, the 4-mana artifact that you pay 1 and tap it, return target creature to its owner's hand, unless its controller pays 1. This is up to like $8 now. So keep an eye out for that type of ability, because it's a really strong one, a really good one that certainly is like.
It's pretty mean.
Yeah.
Like you could like the potential to be mean with this is just like, oh, did you tap out? Cool, return something.
It's so bad. And like, because obviously it's in there for your stuff, but like those
Yeah.
the times when you do it to someone else is so annoying.
That's so annoying.
And if we didn't have a budget limit, I think the number one card we would probably look at in this deck is Dockside Extortionist. You could obviously easily say that for a lot of red decks, if not all of them. But I wanted more so to highlight this card because it is $80. Is that right?
Well, according to Scryfall, it says you can find one for like 35.
Okay. Because on TCG I saw it and it was saying $80, and I was like, that's madness.
Well, that's the thing with these cards when they get to that price level. It's like you might be able to find one for 35, but from where? How much is shipping? Like if you go to your card store, if we are allowed to go to LGS's, like it's like, well, mine has it for 50. We're always Canadian dollars, so Dockside Extortionist to us would probably be like $60. Maybe it might be 80 if you go to a Canadian LGS. I don't know.
I mean, whatever. Enough, I think, has been said about this card, but like, I just don't understand how they thought 2 mana was okay for this card. You know, that's the thing that I just don't get.
Yeah.
Come on, this is free. This is how you make free mana. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Lots of it
too. Okay, well, budget report is all done. We've put our banker's notes away. Sean, how you feeling about the night? You know what I mean? Like, we've
I'm
kind of
excited. I got the limos on the way. Our tuxes are in the back. There's a bartender in the limo who's already shaken up a couple of cocktails for us.
Oh wow, that sounds really special, and it makes sense though, really, if you think about it, because it's about time that we made it over to the Audric Award. There we go. There it is. The Audric Awards, everyone. Oh, Sean, you just need to, just one of these here. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. There you go. Sorry, your tie was just a little not on quite straight there. But there you go. Now it's all settled up. Welcome everyone to the 10th weekly Audric Awards. I don't know the number exactly, but it's a wonderful time
where we award the excellence that goes into Magic cards. It's wonderful to see our peers, characters, and celebrities here tonight. Hello, Bruce Tarl. It is lovely to see you. I'm glad you could make it.
Bruce, we did ask that you wear a shirt, and we can see that you did not. One of those plastic bibs with a picture of a lobster on it does not count as a shirt, but we do appreciate that you tried.
Oh, but that bib was designed by Coco Chanel. It's fine.
Okay, then actually, you know what? That's called fashion. And we're happy that you're here, and we're happy that you're wearing it to these Audric Awards. Shall we have one award to give away this week? And it's a special one. Tonight's award is called the This Guy Again Award. And if you've been listening to the Commander's Brew over the past few weeks, you might have noticed that this guy has showed up a few times now. And that's why tonight he's in the deck again. And that's why he's going to win the This Guy Again Award. So please give it up for Ambuscade Shaman. Yes.
Ambuscade Shaman, congratulations on the black 2/2 Arc Shaman. Whenever this or another creature enters the battlefield of your control, that creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And you can be dashed for 3 and a black. So you cast it for that. It has haste, but it comes back. It's like your own sneak attack, but costs way more.
Yeah, it's like your own sneak attack,
Your hand.
but comes back to your hand. Just a big shout outs to Ambuscade Shaman for being uncommon that I don't think we ever thought we would use this much, but here we are. At least 2 out of 4 decks, the last 4 decks, this guy's made it in. So good on you, Ambuscade Shaman. And that will do it for this week's episode. Thank you from all of us here at the Audric Awards, including Audric Ludark Marshall.
And Audric, Master Tactician.
That's right. Go check out our Audric holiday video if you haven't already. It's a fun one. Audric's actually. Check that out on YouTube. And again, nominate and go ahead and vote for, if that's available to you, for the MTG Content Creator Awards, mtgcca.com. Okay, from all of us here at Commander's Brew.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say that the Commander Content Creator Awards will be counted and curated by Price Waterhouse.
PricewaterhouseCoopers, yes, of course. And then we will have the results handcuffed to us in a briefcase, and we will read them live on the air. Okay,
and
thank you very much for being with us.
Decoy person.
Oh, right.
With a decoy briefcase with the wrong answers in it, and they both will be wearing the exact same suit, and they're twins.
And you won't know which one is which until one of them gets thrown into a ravine, and the other one is here on the stage with us reading the answers. Okay.
Sad fate.
Good. Sad fate, but you know what? He knew what he signed up for.
Okay.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/commandersbrew.
And if you want to get any of the cards from our deck list, go to our TCG Player affiliate link below.
That helps us out too, and for a free way to help us out, consider sharing the show with some friends. Like and subscribe, add a comment or two.
See you later.
Bye.